Welcome back to the Hidden Epoch podcast. We are diving deep into the Gorge.
Oh, you're
That
diving.
sci-fi romance thriller that has got like everyone talking.
Right.
But fair warning, spoiler alert,
Yes.
if you haven't seen the film yet,
Yeah.
you might want to catch it first
Mm-hmm.
because we are about to unpack all the twists and turns.
All the twists and turns, for
Yeah.
sure. It's it's definitely a film that gets under your skin.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's set the scene.
Okay.
We've got Levi, an ex-Marine, and Drasa, a Lithuanian operative.
Right.
Both are top-tier snipers, the best in the business, and their mission, to guard a mysterious gorge.
Yes.
But this isn't your typical scenic lookout point.
No. This gorge is shrouded in secrecy.
Right.
It's isolated,
Okay.
heavily guarded with all sorts of high-tech defenses, and cloaked from any outside surveillance.
Right.
Just getting near it is practically impossible.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Yeah.
It turns out this gorge is home to some truly terrifying creatures
Yes.
called the Holomen.
Uh-huh.
For these grotesque, mutated beings that are a serious threat.
Right.
We're not talking about your average bears and wolves here.
No. It's hinted early on that the Gorge swallowed up 3 battalions of soldiers.
Oh, wow.
Sent to explore it.
Yeah.
Vanished without a trace. Definitely sends shivers down your spine.
Yeah. Talk about a hazardous work environment.
Yeah, really.
So picture Levi and Drasa stationed in towers on opposite sides of this gorge, completely isolated.
Right.
They're forbidden to communicate,
Yes.
but of course they find a way.
They always do. Exactly. It's a classic setup for a forbidden romance.
Yeah.
They start communicating through signs, playing intense games of chess.
Oh, wow.
And bonding over their shared passion for their dangerous profession.
Right.
It's fascinating to see how they build a connection in such a restricted environment.
Yeah. And then comes Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Levi sees that Drasa is struggling with a personal loss and decides to make a grand gesture.
Ah.
He risks everything to rig up a zip line
Wow.
and crosses the gorge to spend the day with her.
That's, what I find really interesting about that scene
Yeah.
is how it highlights the contrast between their professional lives
Right.
and their personal desires. They're these highly trained soldiers in a high-stakes situation, yet they're still drawn to human connection, to love.
Yeah. It's such a powerful moment seeing them connect in this forbidden zone, but their romantic day takes a dark turn
Oh.
when Levi falls into the gorge.
Oh, no.
Talk about a mood killer.
Right, and without a second thought, Drasa dives in after him.
Wow.
It's a testament to their bond, how quickly she reacts to save him.
Right.
And that's when things get really intense,
Yeah.
because what they find at the bottom of the gorge is a nightmare.
It's like they've stumbled into some horrifying mutated ecosystem, a consequence of some seriously messed up scientific experiments.
Right. The gorge is essentially an abandoned World War II bioweapons lab.
Oh, wow.
It's chilling to think about the horrors that were being developed there.
Yeah.
And as they explore further,
Okay.
Levi and Drasa uncover the truth.
Okay.
A private corporation called Dark Lake is exploiting the gorge's mutated DNA to create super soldiers.
So it's not just a natural phenomenon?
No.
It's a whole conspiracy going on? That's got to be a lot to process.
Absolutely. And it raises all sorts of moral questions.
Yeah.
What are the limits of scientific exploration?
Right.
Who gets to control powerful technologies? And what happens when those technologies fall into the wrong hands?
And just when you think things can't get any more complicated, they discover this nuclear failsafe
Right.
called the Stray Dog Protocol.
The Stray Dog Protocol is essentially a doomsday device.
Wow.
Designed to sterilize the entire gorge if containment fails.
Right.
It's a last resort. A desperate attempt to prevent the mutated organisms from spreading beyond the gorge.
Knowing that such a protocol exists must add a whole new layer of pressure to their situation.
Oh, yeah.
They're not just guarding a gorge.
Right.
They're potentially holding the fate of the world in their hands.
It's a heavy burden, and it forces them to make some tough choices.
And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. But before we go, I want to ask you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thinking back to those opening scenes, what really struck you about Levi and Drasa's initial interactions?
What struck me was the sense of longing.
Okay.
The unspoken connection they develop despite the distance and the restrictions.
Yeah.
It's like they recognize a kindred spirit in each other.
Right.
Someone who understands the weight of their responsibilities and the loneliness of their profession.
That's such a great observation. It's like their shared sense of isolation lays the groundwork for their intense bond later on.
Exactly. Yeah. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Gorge.
I'm eager to get back to those terrifying creatures.
Oh, yeah.
The Hollow Men.
Yeah.
They're not your typical movie monsters, are they?
No, there's something else entirely.
Right.
And their existence is directly tied to that abandoned World War II bioweapons lab.
Okay, yeah.
It turns out the Allies were developing a biochemically destructive missile there.
Wow.
But a natural disaster, an earthquake, caused a catastrophic leak.
So we're talking about a top-secret project gone wrong, unleashing something truly horrific.
Exactly. The leak involved a mutagen, a substance capable of merging the DNA of different species.
Oh, wow.
Plants, animals, insects, all spliced together into these monstrous hybrids. It's like evolution gone haywire.
No wonder the Gorge is such a nightmarish ecosystem.
Right.
And then there's Darklake, this shadowy corporation that's not just studying these creatures, but actively trying to exploit them.
Yeah, Darklake sees the Gorge's mutagen as the key to unlocking enhanced human capabilities.
Right.
They're obsessed with creating super soldiers.
Pushing the boundaries of genetic manipulation without any regard for the ethical implications.
It makes you question their motives, right?
Yes.
Are they driven by scientific curiosity, or is there a more sinister agenda at play?
That's the unsettling question that hangs over the entire film.
Yeah.
And it puts Levi and Drasa in a moral bind.
Right.
They're risking their lives to guard something that could potentially threaten humanity.
Talk about a conflict of duty.
Yeah.
And then they discover the stray dog protocol. This nuclear failsafe designed to sterilize the entire area.
Right.
It's like a ticking time bomb hanging over their heads.
The existence of the stray dog protocol raises so many questions.
Right.
Who has the authority to activate it? What are the long-term consequences of such a drastic measure?
Yeah.
And is it ever justifiable to wield that kind of power?
It's a lot for Levi and Drasa to grapple with, knowing they hold the fate of the Gorge and potentially the world in their hands.
It forces them to confront their own values.
Right. To decide what they're willing to sacrifice for the greater good. And that internal struggle adds a whole other layer of complexity to their story.
It's interesting how their personal relationship intertwines with these larger issues.
Yeah.
Their love story isn't just a subplot, it's woven into the very fabric of the film.
Exactly. Their connection deepens amidst these extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
They're isolated, facing constant danger, and their communication is limited, yet their bond grows stronger with every shared glance, every coded message, every heart-stopping encounter with the Hollow Men.
It's not your typical Hollywood romance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There's a real grittiness to it, a sense of urgency and danger that makes their connection all the more compelling.
Their shared profession, their mastery of this deadly art, also forms a unique foundation for their relationship.
Right.
They understand each other in a way that few others can.
That shared understanding, that sense of camaraderie, is palpable in their interactions.
Right.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the film's ending. That scene in the French restaurant is both heartbreaking and hopeful.
It's a beautifully understated reunion. After everything they've endured, they finally find their way back to each other. It's a testament to the enduring power of their connection.
And the fact that Levi shows up after Drasa has read his poem, She Collapsed the Night, adds such a poignant layer to their reunion.
That poem is incredibly symbolic.
Right.
It speaks to the transformative power of love, the way it can bring light to even the darkest corners of our lives.
Their story is ultimately one of resilience, of finding hope amidst chaos. But the Gorge also raises some thought-provoking questions about the ethics of technology and the potential consequences of unchecked ambition.
It challenges us to think critically about the role of science in our world, the balance between progress and responsibility.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that even the most groundbreaking discoveries can have unintended consequences.
It's a film that lingers in your mind long after the credits roll, prompting you to consider the larger implications of what you've witnessed. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you something.
Of course. What is it?
We've talked a lot about Levi and Drasa, but the film only gives us glimpses of the world outside the Gorge. What do you think is happening beyond those immediate boundaries?
That's an intriguing question. We know that Dark Lake is operating in the shadows,
Right.
but what about the government, the public? Are they aware of the dangers lurking within the gorge?
It makes you wonder about the ripple effects of this secret war being waged within this isolated location.
It's a reminder that even the most isolated events can have far-reaching consequences.
Yeah.
And it raises the question of who ultimately bears the responsibility for containing such threats.
These are all important questions that the Gorge leaves us pondering. And it's these unanswered questions that make the film so compelling, prompting us to think beyond the immediate narrative and consider the larger context.
Exactly. It's a film that invites multiple interpretations, sparking conversations about science, ethics, and the human condition.
Welcome back to the Hidden Epoch podcast.
Wow.
We're wrapping up our deep dive into the Gorge, and I'm still from all the twists and turns.
It's a film that stays with you.
Absolutely. We've talked about the terrifying creatures, the shadowy corporation, the ethical dilemmas.
Right.
But I think it's time to acknowledge the sheer technical brilliance of this film.
Oh, for sure.
The cinematography, the special effects, the sound design, it all works together to create such an immersive, unforgettable experience.
It's true. Like the gorge itself feels so real, so tangible. You can practically feel the dampness, the isolation, the sense of being watched, and the way the hollow men are depicted so grotesque and otherworldly. It's truly unsettling.
And those action sequences.
I know.
Pure adrenaline. Those long shots, the precision of their movements, the tension as they evade the drones, it's all masterfully executed.
The filmmakers really know how to build suspense. They blend those heart-pounding moments with quieter, more intimate scenes, creating a film that's both thrilling and emotionally resonant.
Right. It's not just about the spectacle. It's about the characters, their relationships, their struggles. And that's what ultimately makes The Gorge so powerful. It's a story about human connection in the face of unimaginable horrors.
Exactly. It's about finding hope amidst chaos, love amidst fear. And that's a message that resonates deeply, especially in our world today.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
okay,
I'm curious to hear your final thoughts. What's the one thing that stuck with you the most?
From
The Gorge.
For me, it's the ending.
Okay.
That bittersweet reunion in the French restaurant. It's a reminder that even after enduring such trauma, such loss, there's still a chance for healing, for finding peace.
It's a beautiful, understated moment. And it speaks to the resilience of the human spirit. The Gorge takes us on a wild ride.
It does.
But it ultimately leaves us with a sense of hope.
It does. And I think that's why it's such a compelling film. It explores the dark side of human nature, the potential for destruction, but it also reminds us of our capacity for love, courage, and redemption.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some new perspectives on The Gorge. It's a film that sparks so many conversations, so many questions.
It certainly does. And we encourage you to continue exploring those questions, to delve deeper into the themes, the symbolism, the characters. The Gorge is a film that rewards multiple viewings and thoughtful discussions.
And with that, we'll wrap up this episode of the Hidden Epoch podcast. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into The Gorge. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out those hidden truths.